Hi, young learners. See, this is a story, a very humorous and an adventurous story, of a naughty monkey, and his name is Toto. First of all, I would like to ask you, what is the meaning of adventure? Adventure அப்படின்னா என்ன? Adventure means an unusual or an exciting experience that you have, a risky experience that you take. Okay? So now we're going to see the adventures of Toto. Now, first of all, I would like to say, and this lesson has been written by Ruskin Bond. Okay? So I just want to talk to you or give a very brief background of the poet or the writer. Now, Ruskin Bond is an Indian author of British descent. Abdina, he is an Indian but born and brought up in British. He is considered to be an icon among Indian writers and children's authors and a top novelist. He prolifically authored inspiring children's books and was awarded the Sahitya Academy Award to honor his work of literature. So now let's begin with the story. Okay, first I would like to give you the summary of the lesson, and then I will do the reading. Along with the reading, I will be giving you the hard words also. Okay, so let's begin. Yes, let's begin with the story. The narrator's grandfather, the writer's grandfather, had a private zoo. He had a private zoo. He maintained animals. What is kept in the zoo? Animals are kept in the zoo. So what he did was he bought a baby monkey from a Tonga driver for 5 rupees and added it to the zoo. So already there are animals in the zoo, and a new baby monkey was bought from whom? From a Tonga driver. See, I've given you the picture of a Tonga there. So from a Tonga driver, he had bought it for 5 rupees and he added that little monkey also to the zoo. Now this new pet had to be kept a name, so it was called Toto. What was the name of the monkey? The name of the monkey was Toto. He was a very pretty monkey, with bright and mischievous eyes. Romba prettiya, very, very bright and very naughty the monkey was. He was so naughty that he would frighten people by showing his white teeth. And the teeth அப்படியே காமிக்கும் போது பார்த்துருக்கீங்கல்ல, when the monkey shows its teeth, it looks like as if it's smiling at us, and the teeth will be so white. So he used to frighten the people. And also what he had dry hands, and with quick fingers he would use his tail as his third hand. So he had hands, and not only using his hands, he also used his tail as the third hand. Now Toto looked so cute, but his presence, his coming, had to be kept a secret. From whom? It had to be kept a secret from the narrator's grandmother, because grandmothers, they don't like, she did not like new additions, because there are already so many pets existing there, and new additions of pets, she did not like, because she has to do all the work. So this Toto had to be kept a secret. Only the writer, that is the narrator, and his grandfather only knows that they have bought this Toto. Then what they did? Toto had to be hidden, isn't it? So where did they hide Toto is? Toto was put in a closet opening into the narrator's bedroom wall and was tied to a peg fastened into the wall. So a cupboard was there, and in that cupboard, that writer's cupboard, Toto was kept inside. That is, the cupboard is in the bedroom, and he was tied, peg fastened means he was tied into the wall. However, the naughty monkey, did not stay there for a long time. He could not stay there because it's a very naughty monkey, I told you, isn't it? என்ன பண்ணுச்சு அப்படின்னா, he tore off the ornamental wallpaper and pulled out the peg. அந்த ஆணியை எடுத்துட்டு அந்த ஆணியே பிடுங்கி போட்டுருச்சு. அண்ட் தென் அந்த வால்பேப்பர் போட்டிருக்காங்க, வாலில் வந்து அழகாக ஒரு பேப்பர், டெக்கரேட்டட் பேப்பர் போட்டிருக்காங்க, அதையும் கிழிச்சு எடுத்தாச்சு. He also tore the narrator's school blazer in shreds. நரேட்டருடைய blazer, school coat இருக்குல்ல, that coat was torn into pieces. See how naughty the monkey was. Okay, so let's see what happened, whether the monkey stayed there or it was sent. See now, grandfather and the writer came to see. And when they saw all this, grandfather was so fond of Toto, it seems. Instead of getting angry, instead of being angry, he was so pleased with his destruction. He was so happy with what Toto has done, and he is appreciating Toto. He said that Toto is so clever that if he had got more time, he would have tied the torn pieces of the blazer to make a rope and used it to escape from the window. So clever, it seems. See how he is appreciating Toto. After this, Toto was put in a big cage in the servants' quarters, where the servants live, there he was kept in a big cage. What are the other animals that was there in the zoo? A tortoise, a pair of rabbits, a squirrel, and the narrator's pet goat already lived peacefully over there. But the mischievous monkey troubled all these animals at night and did not let them sleep. So this is a very naughty monkey, I told you, so it troubled all the other animals. Now what happened? Grandfather decided to take him to Saharanpur with him. Grandfather wanted to go. He had to go to collect his pension money. So he decided to take this Toto along with him. So the narrator could not go along with the grandfather on his trip. So grandfather took home. He took Toto. Now what he did was, there was a big black canvas kit bag, and that was used to carry Toto to Saharanpur from Dehradun. A bag was prepared, and it was a canvas bag. Canvas bag na the shoes lam podringla, cloth shoes madri, white shoes podringla, so that material. So adula vandu there was a bag, and he was put inside that bag, and he was taken to Saharanpur. Some straw was put at the bottom of this bag because it has to be comfortable, for that monkey to stay inside. The bag was strong enough to prevent Toto from escaping or putting his hand out. So when he tried to come out of the bag, he could only make it roll about on the floor and jump with it into the air. So this Toto was inside the bag, and the bag was zipped. It was closed, isn't it? If he wanted to come out, he could not come out. He could only roll the bag. So when the bag rolled, in the station, in the platform, all the people's attention was on the bag. So they were wondering what is happening and what is carried inside the bag, because the bag was moving here and there. On reaching Saharanpur, Toto suddenly poked his head out of the bag and grinned widely at the ticket collector when grandfather was producing his ticket. What did Toto do? அப்படியே தலையை தூக்கி சடன சஹாரன்பூரில் இறங்கினோன்னு தலையை அப்படியே வெளியே எப்படி வந்துச்சுன்னே தெரில, தலையை அப்படியே வெளியே தள்ளி அப்படியே எல்லா பல்லும் தெரிகிற மாதிரி யாரை பார்த்து சிரிச்சிட்டு இருந்து தான் இட் வாஸ், he grinned at the ticket collector. So the collector, first he was shocked, but after some time, he regained, and then he asked grandfather to pay for the animal. So grandfather was asked to pay for the animal, because if animals are taken by train or by bus, you have to pay for the animals also. So the ticket collector asked grandfather to pay for the animal. To the annoyance of grandfather, the ticket collector referred to the monkey as a dog. Now he got so angry, the ticket collector, and he is annoying grandfather also. grandfather-ஐயும் கோவப்படுத்துறாரு. என்னன்னு சொல்லி, இது மங்கின்னு நான் கூப்பிட மாட்டேன், இது ஒரு டாக் அப்படின்னு சொல்லி. இந்த டாகுக்கு நீங்கள் என்ன பண்ணணும், நீங்கள் you have to pay the money, he says. So grandfather made an attempt to convince the collector, but had to pay finally how much? He had to pay 3 rupees as a fare for Toto. So what happened? He tried to convince, but the ticket collector did not get convinced. Because he was very angry. He was shocked, when Toto poked his head out. So he was very angry, and he asked grandfather to pay for the animal. So he had to pay how much? 3 rupees for Toto. So grandfather was so irritated. Grandfather took out his pet tortoise from his pocket and asked the ticket collector to charge for it as well. Now he was carrying a tortoise also. tortoise na அந்த ஆமைன்னு சொல்கிறோம்ல, அதை வந்து பாக்கெட்டில் கேரி பண்ணிகிட்டு இருந்தார். அவருக்கு ரொம்ப கோவம் வந்துருச்சு. யாருக்கு? grandfather-க்கு. So what he is doing, he took that tortoise and he is showing the ticket collector, you want to pay for this also? So funnily enough, the ticket collector examined the tortoise closely and said that there were no charges to be paid, since that pet was not a dog. Only for dogs they take money, it seems, not for the other animals. So he took and he examined, he saw the tortoise, and he's telling, you need not pay for the tortoise. Okay. Finally, after all this happened, Toto was accepted by grandmother. Grandmother accepted Toto. She said, okay, let's have. And he was given a very comfortable home in the stable. Stable is where these donkeys and horses live. Okay, so that's called the stable. So he was to stay there with the family donkey Nana. Adudia family oda, it was there in the stable, and that was a donkey, and this monkey was kept in that stable. However, on the first night of his stay, Toto hung on to the donkey's long ears with his sharp teeth and never ever became friends with him. See, this Toto troubled the donkey also. It did not leave the other animals there. And what it did, see what all it does, it hung means அப்படியே பல்ல கடிச்சிக்கிட்டு அதோடைய காதை அப்படியே இழுத்துக்கிட்டே, அது ஷார்ப் டீத்தில் காதை இழுத்துக்கிட்டே தொங்கிட்டு இருந்தா, how will the animal feel? So this donkey became so angry with Toto. So he could never ever become friends with the donkey. Another adventure of this Toto. First one, Saharanpur. Before that was in the cupboard, and then comes Saharanpur's experience, and then comes with the animals, other animals, and finally it came to the donkey, and it could not stay with the donkey also. Now next adventure of this Toto. Let's see. Toto used to love hot water baths in winter season because it was very cold, so it liked to have hot water bath. Grandmother would give him a large bowl of warm water, and Toto would first test its temperature, it seems, with his hand. See, first it would keep its hand and test how we check, right, the temperature, the heat of the water. Same way it used to check, and then he would step into it gradually, little by little, slowly, one foot, and then the other foot he used to keep, and then he would sit comfortably with the water up to his neck and rub the soap all over himself with his hands or feet. And when the water would cool down, he would run out quickly and go to the kitchen fire to dry himself. There was in the kitchen there was fire kept. So suppose the water became cool, he would run there. In this case, anyone would laugh at him when he is doing this action. and sometimes he would get hurt, and sometimes he would never like to, or he would refuse to take a bath. One day, Totu almost boiled himself alive while trying to bathe. He would have boiled himself. அப்படின்னா தண்ணியில் சுடு தண்ணியில் விழுந்து அலைவாக அப்படியே பாயில் ஆயிருக்கும். So mischievous this Totu was. He saw a large kitchen kettle left on the fire to boil for tea. See, kettleங்கிறது வந்து ஒரு ஹேண்டிலும் ரவுண்ட் ஷேப்பில் டீ போடுறதுக்கு ஒரு வெசில் அது. Okay, it will have a trunk, and from that the tea will be poured, and there will be a handle. Okay, this kitchen kettle was a very big one, and it was kept on the fire, and water was there in the kettle for tea. What he did was he removed the lid and found the water warm for him to take bath. So what did he do? He got in with his head sticking out of the open kettle. He did not know that it was a kettle and it was on fire ங்கிறது தெரியாம it went inside the kettle and only its head is outside. A little while later, what happened? The water began to boil, and Totu raised himself but sat down again since it was cold outside. So what happened? Little while the water started to boil, and it stood up again, sat in, because outside it was cold. He hopped up and down many times till grandmother came and took out a half boiled Totu from the kettle. See, it was almost half boiled. If grandmother wouldn't have come, this Totu would have died inside the kettle. So that very naughty this Totu was. Okay, now grandmother, because of grandmother, Totu escaped. But that monkey business, this continued. It could not stay as a pet anymore in that house. Once what happened? It stuffed himself with rice. That is, pulao was kept on the table. That was lunch time, and pulao was kept to serve for all of them. And you know what this monkey did? It went and hid itself inside the pulao. As soon as grandmother saw, she started to scream. When she started to scream, what Totu did? It threw plates at her, and a glass of water it threw on the face of one of the aunts. One auntie was also there. She tried to send Totu away, so it threw a glass of water on that auntie. Now grandfather came. When grandfather came, Totu picked up the dish and got out to sit in the branches of the jackfruit tree. So it took that plate of pulao, and it went and sat on the branches of the jackfruit tree. There he stayed all afternoon, and he ate slowly, little by little, and he finished all the rice. So this irritated grandmother, and to irritate grandmother, what that monkey did was he threw the dish from the tree, it seems, and that dishes and the patram அப்படியே broke into pieces. The family could not tolerate all this. Can anyone tolerate? Though it is a pet, it cannot do all this. Very bad. So very naughty the monkey was. Let's see what they decided. Now the middle class family of the narrator. See, the family was not very rich, not very poor. அவங்களால வந்து மறுபடியும் they could not afford their frequent losses. இது நாசமாக்குறதெல்லாம் மறுபடியும் அவங்களால வாங்க முடியல. They were not that rich. So what happened was they decided something. Grandfather sold him back to the Tonga driver for 3 rupees. So he bought for 5 rupees and he sold to the same Tonga driver for 3 rupees, and 2 rupees was a loss for grandfather. So all the adventures of Totu was given. I think you understood the lesson, and see what all Totu did, isn't it? Very mischievous. So from where it was bought, it was sent back to the same place. Okay. Now I'm going to read the chapter. Now turn with me to page number 7. The Adventures of Toto. Grandfather bought Toto from a Tonga driver for the sum of 5 rupees. The Tonga driver used to keep the red little monkey tied to a feeding turf. And the monkey looked so out of place there that grandfather decided he would add the little fellow to his private zoo. The meaning of feeding turf is a container for feeding the animals, and Tonga is a horse cart. Okay. Now Toto was a pretty monkey. His bright eyes sparkled with mischief beneath deep set eyebrows, and his teeth, which were a pearly white, were very often displayed in a smile that frightened the life out of elderly Anglo-Indian ladies. But his hands looked dried up as though they had been pickled in the sun for many years. Yet his fingers were quick and wicked, and his tail, while adding to his good looks, also served as a third hand. He could use it to hang from a branch, and it was capable of scooping up any delicacy that might be out of reach of his hands. The meaning of Anglo-Indian. Anglo-Indian means a person relating to both Britain and India. So like an intercaste marriage, they would have done, that is from people from Britain and India. They make a family. Okay. And then scooping up abdina, lifting. Scooping up means lifting. Okay. Grandmother always fussed when grandfather brought home some new bird or animal. So it was decided that Toto's presence should be kept a secret from her until she was in a particularly good mood. Grandfather and I put him away in a little closet opening into my bedroom wall, where he was tied securely, or so we thought, to a peg fastened into the wall. Peg abdina, a hook. Fastened abdina, tied. So it was tied to a hook into the wall. A few hours later, when grandfather and I came back to release Toto, we found that the walls, which had been covered with some ornamental paper chosen by grandfather, now stood out as naked brick and plaster. The peg in the wall had been wrenched from its socket, and my school blazer, which had been hanging there, was in shreds. I wondered what grandmother would say. But grandfather didn't worry. He seemed pleased with Toto's performance. So the word meanings here are ornamental. Ornamental abdina, very decorative. And then naked abdina, uncovered, which is not covered. Wrenched abdina, broke. Socket abdina, this is an attachment. Socket abdina, attachment. Shreds means cut into thin pieces. Okay. Then, he's clever, said grandfather. Given time, I'm sure he could have tied the torn pieces of your blazer into a rope and made it escape from the window. His presence in the house still a secret. Toto was now transferred to a big cage in the servants' quarters, where a number of grandfather's pets lived very sociably together. A tortoise, a pair of rabbits, a tame squirrel, and for a while my pet goat. But the monkey wouldn't allow any of his companions to sleep at night. So grandfather, who had to leave Dehradun next day to collect his pension in Saharanpur, decided to take him along. The meaning of sociably is in a very friendly manner. Unfortunately, I could not accompany grandfather on that trip, but he told me about it afterwards. A big black canvas kit was provided for Toto. This, with some straw at the bottom, became his new abode. When the bag was closed, there was no escape. Toto could not get his hands through the opening, and the canvas was too strong for him to bite his way through. His efforts to get out only had the effect of making the bag roll about on the floor or occasionally jump into the air. An exhibition that attracted a curious crowd of onlookers on the Dehradun railway platform. What is abode? Abode means home. Abode means home. Toto remained in the bag as far as Saharanpur, but while grandfather was producing his ticket at the railway turnstile, Toto suddenly poked his head out of the bag and gave the ticket collector a wide grin. What is this turnstile? Turnstile, it's a mechanical gate. எப்படின்னா ஒருத்தர் தான் போக முடியும், அப்படியே தள்ளிட்டு ஒருத்தர் போனால் அடுத்தவங்க அப்புறம் அப்படி ஃபாலோ பண்ணலாம். ஸோ இட் இஸ் அ மெக்கானிக்கல் கேட் allowing one person at a time to pass through. The poor man was taken aback, but with great presence of mind and much to grandfather's annoyance, he said, "Sir, you have a dog with you. You'll have to pay for it accordingly." So annoyance here is to anger someone, to make somebody angry. In vain did grandfather take Toto out of the bag. In vain did he try to prove that a monkey did not qualify as a dog or even as a quadruped. Toto was classified a dog by the ticket collector, and 3 rupees was the sum handed over as his fare. Vain abdina, an unsuccessful attempt. Waste. அப்புறம் quadruped means an animal which has 4 legs or 4 feet, you can say. Fare is ticket price. Then grandfather, just to get his own back, took from his pocket our pet tortoise and said, "What must I pay for this, since you charge for all animals?" To get his own back is an idiom, that is to take revenge. The ticket collector looked closely at the tortoise, prodded it with his forefinger, gave grandfather a pleased and triumphant look, and said, "No charge. It is not a dog." Prodded abdina pushed. When Toto was finally accepted by grandmother, he was given a comfortable home in the stable, where he had for a companion the family donkey Nana. Stable is a place where horses and donkeys are tied to. On Toto's first night in the stable, grandfather paid him a visit to see if he was comfortable. To his surprise, he found Nana without apparent cause pulling at her halter and trying to keep her head as far as possible from a bundle of hay. Halter abdina, it's a strap around the head of a horse or any other animal, used for leading it, taking it. Okay. Grandfather gave Nana a slap across her haunches, and she jerked back, dragging Toto with her. He had fastened on to her long ears with his sharp little teeth. Toto and Nana never became friends. Haunches means back. A great treat for Toto during cold winter evenings was the large bowl of warm water given him by grandmother for his bath. He would cunningly test the temperature with his hands, then gradually step into the bath, first one foot, then the other, until he was into the water up to his neck. Once comfortable, he would take the soap in his hands or feet and rub himself all over. When the water became cold, he would get out and run as quickly as he could to the kitchen fire in order to dry himself. If anyone laughed at him during this performance, Toto's feeling would be hurt, and he would refuse to go on with his bath. One day, Toto nearly succeeded in boiling himself alive. A large kettle had been left on the fire to boil for tea, and Toto, finding himself with nothing better to do, decided to remove the lid. Finding the water just warm enough for a bath, he got in with his head sticking out from the open kettle. This was just fine for a while, until the water began to boil. Toto then raised himself a little, but finding it cold outside, sat down again. He continued hopping up and down for some time until grandmother arrived and hauled him half boiled out of the kettle. Hauled him means pulled him out. If there is a part of the brain especially devoted to mischief, that part was largely developed in Toto. He was always tearing things to pieces. Whenever one of my aunts came near him, he made every effort to get hold of her dress and tear a hole in it. One day at lunchtime, a large dish of pulao stood in the center of the dining table. We entered the room to find Toto stuffing himself with rice. My grandmother screamed and Toto threw a plate at her. One of my aunts rushed forward and received a glass of water in the face. When grandfather arrived, Toto picked up the dish of pulao and made his exit through a window. We found him in the branches of the jackfruit tree, the dish still in his arms. He remained there all afternoon, eating slowly through the rice, determined on finishing every grain. And then, in order to spite grandmother, who had screamed at him, he threw the dish down from the tree and chattered with delight when it broke into 100 pieces. Spite means he wanted to hurt grandmother. He wanted to make grandmother angry. He wanted to annoy her. He wanted to offend her. Okay? And then chattered means the sound made by the monkey. Obviously, Toto was not the sort of pet we could keep for long. Even grandfather realized that. We were not well to do and could not afford the frequent losses of dishes, clothes, curtains, and wallpaper. So, grandfather found the Tonga driver and sold Toto back to him for only 3 rupees. I hope you all understood the lesson, children. I explained, I've given the summary of the lesson, and then I've done the reading part and given you the hard words and its meanings. Okay, thank you very, very much.